Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kakuyo. Thanks for joining me. The title of this evening's Dharma talk is Accepting the Relative Nature of Things. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. So, this evening I'll be offering a teaching from my new book, A Year of Zen Mindfulness. It's available everywhere books are sold. Paperback copies just went out today, so I'll leave a link in the description if you want to get one for yourself. And we'll just dive right in. So this reading is a koan, and it goes as follows. After a Dharma talk, a young person walked up to the teacher and said, "I'm so frustrated. The squirrels won't stop eating seeds from my bird feeder." The teacher responded by climbing a tree. In Buddhism, we have something known as the Two Truths Doctrine. And the Two Truths Doctrine very simply states that our world exists in two forms of reality, two truths, at the same time. There is the absolute truth, which states that all of reality is illusion, that is beyond name and form, and our conceptions of the world are unreal. At the same time, we have relative truth, which states that the world is very real, that our feelings are real, our perceptions are real, and we should act in accordance with what we perceive through our senses in a skillful, loving manner. To understand how this works, we can look at my robe. Now, in the absolute sense, if we look at my robe and we start to break it down, well, first we find out that it seems like a solid robe. But if we probe deeper, we see that it's actually made of threads of cotton. If we go deeper then, still, those threads of cotton are made of molecules, which are made of atoms, which are made of light waves, which are made of, we don't know. So in the absolute sense, there is no robe. It's an aggregate of a myriad of things. And yet, in the relative sense, I am very clearly wearing a robe. I feel it on my skin. I put it on earlier today. I'll take it off after this Dharma talk. You're watching me wear it. The robe is real and unreal at the same time. So Buddhism first teaches us to appreciate the differences between absolute reality and relative reality. Then it teaches us when it's necessary to hold on to that absolute understanding that none of this exists, and when it's best to hold on to that relative understanding of reality, that all of this does in fact exist, and we must act in accordance with the relative nature of things. Meaning we should see the world as it is and act in accordance. And this is important because as I continue to walk down the Dharma path, I realize that much of our suffering comes because we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we want it to be. I'll say that again because it's important. We suffer because we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we want it to be. We see the world as it should be in our made-up fantasies. The squirrels shouldn't eat from my bird feeder. The rain shouldn't fall on the days we're having a cookout. Our partner should never forget to put the toilet seat down. And because we see the world as we want it to be, and that's different from the way the world actually is, we suffer as a result. In fact, the larger the gap between our desires and the reality of the world, the greater our suffering becomes, which is why in the Four Noble Truths we are told suffering is caused by desire, and the way to end suffering is to end desire. Of course, that doesn't mean that we stop wanting things. It simply means that we examine our wants and we determine if they make sense. I want the squirrels to stop eating out of my bird feeder. Is there anything I can actually do about that? Not really. So holding on to that desire, I want the squirrels to stop eating from my bird feeder, does nothing but cause unnecessary harm to me. In addition, it causes harm to the people around me who have to hear me complain incessantly about the squirrels doing what squirrels do, what's within their relative nature, which is to eat from bird feeders. It's no different than saying, I don't want the sun to rise in the morning. It's the relative nature of the sun to rise. We can fight that and we can suffer, or we can adjust to it. We can accept it as part of our lives and buy heavy curtains if we don't want the sun rays to come in our bedroom. Similarly, with the bird feeder in the koan, the student has a choice. He can continue down this silly road of, I want the squirrels to stop being squirrels, or he can accept it for what it is and either leave the bird feeders there and allow the squirrels to eat, or get rid of the bird feeders and solve the problem once and for all. But what he should not do is to continue causing himself unnecessary harm. This is true of squirrels. It's also true of people. Oftentimes, we have ideas of how we think people should behave, and we don't pay attention to how people actually behave. Now, this is important because people, like squirrels, have a relative nature, which is built up based on karma going back through endless lifetimes. And unless they're practicing the Dharma, unless they're training their minds, they're oftentimes acting out of habit. They don't necessarily mean to act maliciously. They're just doing it because that's what they've been taught to do. And we can keep holding on to this fantasy of how we think people should be, or we can accept them how they are and behave in accordance with that. Whether that means there's certain things we don't talk about with them, whether that means we avoid them altogether, whether that means we invite them into our homes because it's always a party and we love being with them. We have to make that decision, but we do so first by seeing and appreciating their relative nature. It is only by doing this that we're able to choose skillful actions which end suffering, not just for ourselves, but for all sentient beings. Amitabha. So that's the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. I'll just end with a few announcements. Again, my new book, A Year of Zen Mindfulness, is now available in bookstores. Anywhere books are sold, I'll place a link in the description for this talk if you'd like to get a copy. And if you'd like to reach out to me with questions, feel free to email me, sameoldzen@gmail.com. Thanks so much for your time. I'll talk to you soon. Amitabha.